I'm Estelle Bingham, and this is the Love, Purpose, Connection podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey of exploration into what I believe are the secrets of a good life. Now, more than ever, when everything is shifting, uncertain, upside down, and quite frankly a little bit inside out, the secret of life is just three things. The secret is love, purpose, and connection. But knowing the secret is really just the beginning of the journey. You need to know how to find those things, how to protect and how to grow them. And that's where this podcast comes in. Here on Love, Purpose, Connection, I want to explore how to discover and really develop the secrets of a good life. I'm a holistic therapist and healer, and I work with people every day from all walks of life who feel stuck, lost or out of balance. Feelings we all recognise. I help them inhabit their lives in a new way, feeling a very real sense of positivity, empowerment and hope. And so over this series, I'll be sharing frank, inspiring, sometimes raw, often joyful conversations with a different guest each time, exploring their relationship to love, purpose and connection. Some of the people I've worked with and others have informed and inspired my own work. But together we'll be exploring just what those three words really mean, and also, crucially, how you can discover and develop them in your own life. Today I'm talking to the multi-talented actress, businesswoman, philanthropist and brand consultant, Donna Air. I've known her for years now, and actually you'll hear in the podcast, it was a tarot reading that brought us together. But I've always been really fascinated by Donna's life story. She made her name as an actress on the BBC TV series Byker Grove when she was just a child, and I grew up watching that series. At 15, she moved to London from Newcastle and became part of the pop duo Crush. She went on to become a presenter on The Big Breakfast, and most recently, she's appeared in numerous TV dramas. But what I particularly want to share with you from our conversation is Donna's powerful sense of the boundary between kindness and assertiveness, and her unshakable loyalty to those she truly loves, including her dog Molly.
The sound of tea pouring.
That is Donna Air pouring some Tulsi tea.
I love a bit of Tulsi tea. How nice to be at home. It's the place to be.
We've got the fire. We've got a wonderful glow from the fire. We've got a pot of tea. And we do have Molly, the snoring dog, with us. So she will be featuring in this podcast.
Love me, love my dog, I'm afraid. She's not going anywhere.
What type of dog is she, Donna?
She's a Lhasa Apso. And God, she is a snorer. She looks cute and fluffy and quite dainty, but she snores like a
trooper.
Yeah.
When I first met Molly, when she was a puppy, she was a bit of a nightmare.
Oh, she's so chilled now. She's like a cat dog. She just sleeps all day and all night. But if she's got into bad habits because my daughter has her in her bed all the time. So if ever my daughter's not here, Molly obviously can't sleep on her own now. So if I shut my bedroom door, she kicks it and you'd think there was an elephant at the door.
Yeah. Well, she snores like an elephant, so I'm just warning everyone. But do you remember the first time we met when you came into...
I don't like it when people say this because all my best friends now always have got some slightly cringy, funny story about how we first met. Because a lot of my best friends, we all met and I was either probably a little bit shirty with them or we didn't get on. Did we get on?
We got on really well.
Oh, we got on from day one. That's good.
Well, you rolled in. There was this sort of, the doors opened.
Oh,
and
I made an entrance.
And this energy came through the door into Wild Ones on the King's Road.
Oh, I loved Wild Ones. I used to go in and buy stones and...
with all the crystals and the smash sticks. And I was doing cards and I was reading cards. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. And I was booked up that day. And you rolled in and you said, I need a reading. I was like, well, I haven't got any space. And you said, can you come to my house?
Oh, yes, I did. And then you came to my house.
And I came to your house after work, and that was that.
Yeah, and weird, I don't often invite people to my house that I don't know.
No. One of the things that really struck me about you was your energy.
Yeah.
And how positive your energy is.
Oh, my daughter says the same. She always says, Mum, can you please stop being so positive? It's too early in the morning.
But it's quite wonderful.
Or quite annoying.
Well, we love it. This is all about positivity, this podcast, so we love it.
Okay. So I'm Little Miss Positive. Okay, I'll take that.
You are Little Miss Positive. But what I feel from when I think about, your career and I think about who you are from a very early age. Okay, you're a child actor.
Yeah.
And you had this breakout role in Byker Grove at 10. So what was that sense of purpose for you? What did you feel at 10 years old about who you were and where you were going?
That's an interesting question. I've never been asked that before. Did I have a sense of purpose at 10? I had a huge sense of fantasy and imagination. And because I was an only child for probably the first 9-10 years of my life, I spent a lot of time in my own headspace. I think that's where I probably became quite creative. And also I grew up, very humble beginnings in Newcastle. We didn't have all the things our kids have today. I was kind of left to my own device for a lot of the time. My parents were working really hard. I was around a lot of older members of the family. So I was just sort of left in Donna's world. So maybe this is where I got my first interest in, escaping to another world and telling stories. And that's how my interest in acting came along. And also I had a lot of energy. And so to get rid of some of that energy, my grandparents and my mom took me to, I think it was like a drama club. And then obviously Newcastle's quite a small city. I think everybody's been in Byker Grove at some point because they go around the schools, they go around youth clubs and all of that to look for supporting cast, so extras essentially. So I was an extra on the show. I think you get paid, I think I got £20 a day or something.
It was pretty good back in the day.
I was so excited. I was about 9.
Yeah, that's like a fortune.
Yeah, I used to beat the 5p I used to get from taking bottles back to the shop. I
remember those Lucas.
Do you remember those bottles?
Do. Yeah, get those bottles back.
I think the first day on set, there was a scene with Ant and Dec where they were doing a magic show and they had to saw them in half. So I was quite petite and I was very nimble, so I got the job to curl up and be the
one they sawed in half.
I would hide in the box and they sawed me in half and I was like the feet in the box. Aww. Anyway, the producer saw me on the screen on the monitor and asked who I was and would I come and audition for a principal role. And I did, and I got cast for 5 years playing Charlie Charlton. But to answer your question, did I have any purpose? I think my only purpose then was, I didn't really have one at that point because it was just a complete stroke of luck and everybody needs that stroke of luck. And then what happens afterwards is obviously a mix of things, but it was a complete stroke of luck. I didn't have any huge purpose, then my purpose was, wow, this is great. I don't have to go to school. And then my purpose was having fun, and my purpose was, my purpose was to fulfill a dream, which was, at that point, I wanted to be an actress and a pop star. But I think I'd always been manifesting something in my imagination, having spent so much time in my own head. I always wanted to travel. I was always very desperate and eager to see the world and to do something much bigger than the surroundings that I was living in. I always had that, and I don't know if that was just like every little girl, like a dream, or whether it was just by visualising it, maybe I did manifest some of my own reality, because I definitely wanted to go to America and go to London. I remember being 12 and London sounded like this fantastic place. I'd seen it in movies.
So there's something about that time that you spent on your own and that sort of creativity and then really focusing on this dream and having the space to dream. And that's one of the things about manifesting and how we manifest change in our lives, is actually creating some space to actually dream. So it felt like you had that because you were left to your own devices, and then you had this energy that I spoke about at the beginning that you just you roll in with this energy.
Well, I sometimes can have a lot of manic energy, that's for sure. I've got kind of hive brain a lot of the time, and I have to always keep bringing myself back down and calming myself, because I do have that very creative energy that can get quite manic.
So it can feel unfocused. So it's like, how do you actually end up focusing that and putting that into a kind of something coherent that makes sense sort of day to day, so that you can actually keep your eye on the ball as well?
And I think, like you just said, I think it's very important for all of us, And maybe that this year especially has given us all that time, because we know there's been a huge global refocus, there's been a huge shifting, everything's reset. And everybody, whether they like it or not, has, we've all been locked up in our homes where we've had to take that time and refocus and, spend a lot of time thinking, which can be brilliant if we turn it into doing also, because we don't just want to sit and think. Sometimes it can be a negative.
You don't want to start ruminating.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's, to have short spells of really thinking, but then actioning too. Because if you just live in your head all the time as well, we know that's not good for people too.
It's the balancing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Of the sort of earthing of these thoughts, these creative thoughts, and how that becomes something in the world and actually putting it out into the world. So there you are, you're 15, and I thought this was really took a lot of courage. You turn up in London as a 15-year-old, and then you're in a pop group.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it called Pop Crush?
No, it's a pop group called Crush.
Duo Crush. Okay. And what was that like?
So I just remember some London executives coming down to Newcastle. I think maybe it was one Simon Cowell, I can't remember. And I was thinking about this the other day actually when I was talking to my daughter, because women today definitely found their voice, and they are finding it, and it's wonderful, and they're really, really strong, and they're very direct, and they have no problem in speaking
their truth,
which I think is wonderful. And it kind of takes me off guard sometimes, because they're so strong, all these teenagers, and they're very direct. But I didn't grow up having that voice, and especially coming from where I came from, you just accepted everything. You didn't really question everything. You were just grateful.
Right.
You were just grateful for the opportunity. You didn't put the value on yourself that maybe you should. It's something I learned much later in life, that actually we all do have a value, and the value we have is the one we set ourselves.
Absolutely.
But I was, I was a 15-year-old girl. Anyway, somebody came along and said, "Do you want to do a record deal?" And I was like, okay. I didn't question anything. I just thought, wow, this is amazing. And it was my ticket around the world. I would certainly never had a gap year or any of those things. So I just said, okay, amazing. And travelled the world. So we toured Japan, we toured America, and I got to see all of these things. And it kind of blew my mind. And that's what I was craving. That's what I'd been manifesting. I wanted to see all these things.
So you're 15, 16, 17?
I was about 15. Because I had to have a chaperone for some of the parts of touring until I was 16. But I remember being in some, I'd obviously watched too many Quentin Tarantino movies, and you're staying in motels in, rough parts of America. And I've just done a gig, and I've got my per diems and all my cash from the gig, and I'm thinking someone's going to burst through the door and rob me.
So there's this stroke of luck, it's like the Buddhists say, that they spend a lot of time chanting, and they're chanting every day in order to be ready for the moment that the door opens. And the door opens and they're ready to step in, whatever that is, into the opportunity. They're prepared. And so you were stepping in every time. So the opportunities were coming in, you were stepping in, you were meeting the opportunities.
Well, I certainly, to be honest, I probably grabbed too many opportunities, what I love today, it's quite funny because my daughter started to get offered quite a few things, and she's much more level-headed than I am. She's like, no, I don't think I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to wait because I want to do this. She's got much more of control already of her own destiny, which is incredible. And maybe, obviously, she's had a very different upbringing to me, so maybe she doesn't need to grab every opportunity that comes along, whereas I did.
Right.
Just very desperately, and I took everything. But in hindsight, maybe I didn't need to do everything. I should have had more faith and maybe actually took a step back and planned it out a little better. But in Donna style, I just went in and did everything and had a great time doing so. Now, as a 40-year-old woman, it's very important to me. I feel connected to everything I'm doing. It's got to have some meaning. It's got to, but in those days, I was like, yeah, this is fun. I wasn't as connected to everything I was doing like I am now.
But you are multi-dimensional, Donna. I think we need to sort of actually, one of the things to highlight, I think it's quite important to think about, what we bring to all of this. And there's a real unique energy that you have.
I definitely think outside of the box a lot of the time.
So if we just allow that to just sort of be, you know, because it is luck and it is, you know, and there's this very forceful sort of a sense of dreaming, and that dreaming brings
and it's an awful lot of resilience involved. Let's be honest, to be a woman, especially ones that have a family where you have to adapt all of the time. Yes, I definitely have been resilient, and you know, I've had to spin a lot of plates because I haven't always had all the options that I would have liked. You know, there was lots of things at a time when my daughter was small and I was getting offered shows in America. That would never have been an option for me. I knew I couldn't move to America. I couldn't take my daughter away. So there are lots of things women have to consider. So actually, I'm celebrating all these walls that are breaking down where you can just go for it.
So is that how it feels now? So you're 40.
Yeah, I'm not fearful of anything anymore.
That's quite a good segue for us into the love part of this podcast.
Love, such a big word.
It's such a big word, Donna.
Great word though, love. I love people. I'm definitely somebody that I love being surrounded by great people. And when I'm surrounded by people I love, I'll do anything for that person or those people.
That's true.
Yeah, I love energy, and I get very inspired by being around, you know, kind, talented people. You know, when people inspire you that you're around, there's nothing quite like that, is there?
No.
It's the best feeling ever. So I love that. And then I also like time with myself a lot.
So you like to kind of go back into the cave?
Yeah. I need a certain amount of my own headspace uninterrupted every day. If I don't get that, I start to go a bit nuts.
You know, back to love. What about... Yeah.
How is love?
How is love?
I have a lot of kindness, actually, in terms of family and friends. When I take a step back to actually appreciate it and let people love me or let them do kind things for me, which, again, is quite a difficult thing for me to do sometimes. When I do that, I just realise how blessed I am, because I've got some amazing friends who are very giving with their time and their advice. You know, I've got a lot of mentors in business and in the industry, and people really, you know, sort of, sometimes I think, God, people really want me to do well, and isn't that lovely? But I don't always see it because I'm too busy running around like a lunatic. So I do feel, actually, I have love and I have support, which is great. Would I like more love? Maybe a little bit. You know, there's always room for that. But again, I need to make space for that. And I haven't really been doing that.
Yeah, so tell me, I mean, what about meeting a narcissist?
Oh, yeah, I've met a couple of those. I've met two.
Okay.
It's not bad, is it?
It's
In
not
40,
bad. It's not...
40 years. I've met two that definitely stick out as being quite extreme personalities, and I'm sure probably what I learnt from those situations, I could probably write a book. Well, several.
So what would you say to anyone out there that's listening to this podcast today? What would you say to them if they find themselves in a relationship or a situation with someone who is narcissistic?
Oh, that's very difficult, because narcissists are incredibly good. So if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you might not even realise, because they have you convinced that, you know, a narcissist could have me convinced my name's not Donna. So you have to be very careful. Sometimes you don't really realise how narcissistic that personality can be until either afterwards or until you take a big step back. But yeah, I would say, run!
How did you get yourself out of there, Donna?
Well, you know what? You always have to take your own part in these situations. Narcissists are around us quite a bit, whether it's in work, you know, there are always occasionally some quite kooky personalities out there. And, you know, if you're willing to see the signs, there's always red flags. And I'm quite ballsy like that. I do pick up on signals and red flags, and so I'm quite intuitive. You know, I study personalities and characters for a living. So I'm quite fascinated by personalities, and I'm fascinated by characters. So Yeah, I do pick up on things quite quickly. And actually, I do deal with things quite quickly. And I think that's the key, is to just, don't be fearful to admit it. And you know what? There's no failure in walking away from things at all. You can try this shit as many times as you want till you get it right, or till what works for you. There is no shame in walking away. People say relationships fail. I say no. They don't fail. They're not for you.
And that's the line in the sand, isn't it? That's the boundary about knowing what's right.
Fail. I made a different choice.
You're very, very natural at this, aren't you?
You're good at this.
So we've spoken about, some of this stuff that's happening all the time. It seems to be happening around you kind of unconsciously. Mm-hmm. But when you're actually on a mission, how do you manifest?
Well, I probably I'm going to ask you about this, because you are the queen of manifestation, and you do it in a much more calm, peaceful way than I do. I'm running around a bit like a damsel in distress, going, oh my God.
I think you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, but I'm sure I could be doing it better. So I would like to ask you, when you manifest, how do you do it? How long do you do it for? And where do you do it? Tell me, what do you sit and meditate for 20 minutes? What do you do?
Yeah, I feel like some of the stuff we've spoken about is really kind of on point in terms of how to manifest our futures. So creativity, having some breathing space to really allow ideas to drop in. And I would always say to get them outside of you is really important. So out of this kind of grey matter and onto paper.
So write them down.
Yeah, this is a classic. People do this, right? So they create vision boards. I do a cosmic canvas weekend. But when I was very young, I'd start with just writing out what it is that I wanted to manifest. And I do it all the time. And the thing to do with manifestation is to be very purposeful, to hold two energies at the same time. So a real sense of purpose, a real sense of this is happening and I deserve this and it's coming for me and it's already happened. The belief.
So real self-belief when you're manifesting something.
Real self-belief, and also to spend a few moments with it as if it's already happened. So that's kind of classic law of attraction, right? Really feeling into that.
So say that again. So we've got to have real self-belief that we deserve whatever we're manifesting.
It's these moments, because doubt is such an interesting thing. Even when we have these ideas, we have these dreams, and we can feel like we believe we deserve them. But then when we really sit with them at our core, something else can creep in. And that's what you're twisting in the moment. You're like, I deserve this. And it's actually just being with it. So you can visualize that it's actually happened. So we have to hold that energy, which is deeply present, with also an energy of complete detachment. So you just give it away at the end. So you could spend 5 minutes with it, 10 minutes with it, and you sit with that energy and then you let it go.
Yeah.
So that's trust. And it's this kind of how these things converge in this one place to create reality.
Yeah. I've always practiced the non-attachment thing. So, when I've read books and things in the past, whenever they say, like when you give love or you do anything kind, you just do it and you put it out there and you expect absolutely nothing in return.
Yeah.
There's no attachment to that.
Yeah, you do it and let it go.
So when you're manifesting, also I think you've got to be very careful on what you're manifesting. What, it's apparently, correct me if I'm wrong, it's to stay away from the want.
Yeah, because want takes us into something else.
It's very different. It's very different, materialistic.
And also we can get really wrapped up in that insistence. It's like that insistent energy, which is not flowing. It's like grab it, it's holding it. So it's actually constricted energy, like it's panic, it's fear. It's how fear comes in. It's like, I want it. We have to be like, I deserve this. It's coming to me. It's here. It's happening. It's already happening. And I let it go. And I trust that it's going to...
trust.
That's the trust.
You have to really trust that the universe has your back, right?
You have to really trust that the universe has your back.
And you just let it go. And also trust, because it's very easy to get into the fear mode, especially right now with what we do and we don't have. So you just have to trust, because everybody's scrambling around trying to get what they need in life, but actually trust, because there's enough in the world for everyone, right?
There's enough in the world for everyone.
And we'll always be able to find, hopefully, what we need in that given time.
You will always be able to do that. So 2021 What are you manifesting, Donna?
This conversation's making me feel so much better already.
Oh, good.
It is. It's a lovely thing to do. We should practice this every day because it feels good.
Yeah.
What am I manifesting for 2021? I feel I want to have more uninterrupted creative space. So I'm going to create that space for me. I've got a bit of a desire to develop and write a project. And I've got some ideas, so I feel I want to sort of disappear and do a bit of that and see what comes out of that experience, and maybe find somebody really fun and creative to do that with. So I'm putting that on my sort of...
Cosmic canvas.
My cosmic canvas. Actually, you were the first person that taught me this. I've just remembered. You taught me that and I think I did it a couple of years in a row, and it actually works very well. You told me that on New Year's Eve, you sketch and paint a picture of what you want your new year to look like.
That's what I do.
It's amazing. I actually did that with Freya a couple of times. And then all the usual things we all want, which is our children to be happy and healthy, and the very simple things, really. And maybe a night out. I mean, that wouldn't hurt, would it?
A night out would be amazing.
I mean, it could now, if we're going to get really into the details. I mean, I'd love to go to Claridge's for a nice cocktail.
Okay, well, there, you can put that on your cosmic canvas, definitely. Okay, so if we think about just recently, kind of more recently, just, and we can talk about this in relation to sort of your growing edge, something that you've, understood. Because obviously we're always peeling away layers, and we sort of think we kind of know who we are, and then another relationship comes in or another experience comes in, and it sort of mirrors something to us about who we are, And is there anything that you feel has sort of taught you or deepened your understanding of yourself?
Well, I think the thing that teaches us all the most are probably our most personal relationships, aren't they? Don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's pretty much a given for everyone. And I realise that people come into your lives and there's always a reason why they've come along, whether it's a wonderful experience or not so much. You have to just be open to the lessons that's learned in the good and the bad times, I think.
So have you learnt that recently? Have you kind of understood? Is that sort of refined a little bit more?
Yeah, I have to say I've definitely, I've learnt so much. I've also learnt to speak up, and I've also learned to really, put your boundaries down. And this is like happening universally with women, like it's okay. It actually took me a very long time. I don't know why I got stuck in my voice of saying, no, this isn't okay and this doesn't work for me. So I think that's quite, I mean, the problem is as we get older, we get so set in our ways. You've got to be really open to being adaptable and compromise. So I think it's not all about what's going on at home. It's also how you treat, a stranger in the street, how you treat somebody you don't know. I mean, that it's always easy to be kind to the people we love, but can you show the same respect to somebody? And I've always actually been a very kind person, so I'm okay with that. I haven't always been the most patient, so I'm working on that. And my daughter pulls me up all the time. She's like, Mom, I can't believe, because I sometimes get impatient with people that are not always at my speed.
But do you know what that's about?
What is that? I'm working on it.
That is about your Leo, Aries rising, Sagittarius moon.
Oh yeah, I'm just like, get on with it.
Did you know that you had those planets?
What is
So I took your planets, and this is a little bit that we do in the middle of this podcast.
Oh my God.
Because you gave me your date of birth.
Yes.
And actually, we found out that you have 4 planets in Leo.
What does that mean?
It just means what the astrologer said was this person is very, very fiery.
Fiery? That's so interesting.
Yeah, but also incredibly creative. You had so much creativity in your chart, like huge, huge amounts of creativity. And actually very wonderful things. They said this person's come to the planet to do something very special.
Oh, that's nice.
Curiosity and a gift for the gab is your superpower.
That's true. I'm quite good at sales when I need to be. And negotiating.
And negotiating.
Yeah, I'm getting better.
So I feel like your public persona, like how you are in the world, you work and you are on it and those plates spin. And I've witnessed that. I mean, you're just amazing at that.
Well,
and
yeah, I mean,
you need to own that.
That's what I say to my daughter. Where do you think all this comes from? It doesn't fall from the sky. And we do nice things, and we have a nice home. And yeah, it takes a lot of plate spinning.
Yeah, you've
made it all happen.
Yeah, you've definitely made that happen.
Yeah.
You're consistently incredibly down to earth.
Yeah, that much I am. I do know that.
I don't think I've ever seen you not be. You are incredibly down to earth. So it's like you've retained, that part of you as you've grown. And then this idea of you're growing boundaries personally. Yeah. And that often happens with a lot of people that I see. They're really powerful in the workplace. And then personally, in personal love relationships, the boundaries are different. And so that can be their growing edge.
Sometimes people can mistake kindness for weakness. And I'm very kind, but I'm not weak.
Do you want to tell us what you mean by that?
Well, when you're kind and sweet, people might think you're a bit of a pushover. But, my boundaries are pretty relaxed until I feel they're getting pushed. And then my boundaries go down quite firm.
So then you say no. So then you found that voice and you say no.
Yeah.
What about the elephants? I know they mean a lot to you.
They do.
Because I love elephants. I've got a thing about elephants.
I do too. They're such an amazing species. Conservation and animals are a huge part of my life, my family's life. As patron of the elephant family, we have a project to raise money for coexistence in the wild because obviously all the forests being cut down, elephants have nowhere to go, so they're going into farmers' land. So we're trying to create corridors so that humans and elephants can live peacefully together. They need a lot of help right now. Sometimes animals are very low on people's priority, but if the animals go, then, we have to coexist. We have to work together. Our planet is nothing without these beautiful species. So I went to the Gabon when we first introduced the first family of gorillas back, the orphans, that I hand-raised.
Wow. Did you hand-rear them?
Yeah, so we did that. So the first ones, and they've been living in the Gabon for a while now, and they've all gone off to breed and have more babies, and this is obviously what it's all about. There's no reason really why animals need to be in captivity today. It's crazy.
So when you hand-reared them, what was that like?
It's used to cling to your ankles and you give them a bottle. It's just like having a baby, really. But obviously my daughter was the same age, so she would be around baby gorillas. And now she goes in with silverbacks, with gorillas she's known since she was born. And she will go to the Gabon and she will see a lot of these babies that are now fully grown, that she hasn't seen since she was probably about 2 or 3. It's quite an amazing story. Yeah, I think she's the youngest woman in the world to go in with fully grown silverback gorillas. I mean, it's quite magical to see.
So do you feel like that's part of the kind of your connection? Do you feel that's, your conservation?
I hadn't really thought about it, obviously, until 20 years ago when I became involved and was living with all these animals. And it definitely changes your perspective. It makes you realise how close we are to, there are very few things that separate human and gorillas. In fact, one of them was the prehensile thumb movement, because tribes evolved in the wild because they could use tools because of the thumb mechanism, whereas gorillas didn't. And that's one of the few things that separated us.
Wow.
In evolution.
So would you say, I always think that the kind of connecting into nature and really having that honouring, being in that sort of honouring of nature connects us into, a greater energy.
I think it just connects us to be responsible and decent human beings. I mean, you can't just walk around messing up a planet. It's like not flushing the loo when you leave. It's rude and it's wrong, It's just about being decent human beings.
Yeah, no, I'm in full agreement. So hopefully 2021, we've had this year of 2020 being one of reflection, that we can really think about what's important for our futures.
Yeah, and actually where we can, and that's something I want to put on my manifestation list for 2021, because there's much more I can be doing. I definitely got fire in my belly, got passion. Like and I really definitely things stir me up. I'll stand up for everything I believe in, everything that's right and that's wrong. I grew up in a place where you don't take any shit.
You don't take any shit, but then what about that part of yourself, that part where you say, yes, I deserve, and yes, that value?
Do you know what? I do have value for myself because I do actually.
I think you do.
And do you know what? I also believe in myself probably more than I think I do because I walk away from so many situations and I wouldn't really do that unless I had belief in something. You also, when you get to a certain age, you definitely have confidence. I've definitely got more confidence now and things don't rock my world like they used to because when you've survived a few knocks and you've managed to pull a few rabbits out of the hat and you keep doing it and you keep surviving and you keep providing whatever it is you need to make your world go round, then you sort of get to a point where you think, okay, I've done it once, I've done it twice, I've got this, everything's going to be okay. If I've done it once, I can do it again. She's not used to having people in the house.
Shall we hold her?
Yes, let me go and pick her up. It's very high maintenance, our dog, like the other one in the house. We've got very high maintenance females in this house.
I know, bless her. So what we're going to do now is a reading, actually. This part of the podcast, it's a mini reading for you. And I thought I'd bring this in because I did used to do a lot of reading of the cards. I don't do it so much anymore.
It's wonderful whenever you say you're going to do one. I'm like, oh my God.
And this is just a sort of a bit of guidance for the day. Mm-hmm. Do you believe in angels, Donna?
I do. I think we've got guides for sure. And whether is it our ancestors talking to us? Is it spirit guides?
How do they sort of show up for you?
Well, sometimes I think is it my grandparents, but also I can ask for guidance sometimes. Actually, maybe I might do that at the weekend, go and sit somewhere in the park and ask for guidance on a couple of issues I've got going on right now.
Perfect. So are you going to pick a card?
Yeah. I'm feeling love, purpose, and connection.
You are? Right. So take a few breaths and take your time.
Oh, I've got a card called Vanessa.
What does Vanessa say?
I don't know. Shall we read it?
Yeah.
To make your decision, ask yourself, which way brings me closer to my divine purpose? Which way takes me away from it?
Okay, and the other one is?
It's difficult. I'm going to have to think about that. I have an eagle for communion.
Oh, that's beautiful.
What is that?
That's your communion with nature. That feels like it's telling you to go into the park on the weekend and get a download on the decision that you need to make. So you can sit with that.
I probably have two big decisions to make right now. One especially. So I'll go and do some. What did you say? I'll pootle. I'm going to pootle to the park and do some pondering.
You're going to commune with nature.
I'm going to commune with nature.
Yeah.
I'm in for that tree hugging if it gives me some clarity and some purpose.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
To find out more about Donna, you can find her at Donna Air on Instagram, and you can also follow me at estelle.bingham. Come and find me. I'd love to know what you think of the show. And of course, if you've enjoyed it, do spread the word and rate it if you can. The producer for this podcast is Sarah Cudden, with exec production from Kate Taylor. This is a Feast Collective production. Till the next one, wishing you all more love, purpose and connection.